Chief Inspector. How can I help you?
Dr. Allworthy, I'm sure you might have some inkling as to why I'm here this morning.
I understand that there was a body found in the library. Or why they seem to have moved it.
Clarissa Grandison was found dead there this morning.
What? When I heard someone died in the library, I just assumed it was Elric passing away, reading an old ancient manuscript in one of those comfortable chairs.
Yes. Due to the circumstances in which she was found, we are treating this very seriously indeed. I'd like you to answer a few questions for me, if you please.
But of course. Fire away.
Would you please tell me what your movements were over the last week?
I'm afraid I don't really remember. It's all a bit of a blur, an orgy of the senses, if you will. It was one of the celebratory times of year, the rites of spring and all that.
What about last night? Do you remember where you were last night?
Yes. I seem to remember a rather dull evening in the theatre.
Is there anyone who could confirm that?
I'm sure there are several people who would agree that my opinion current state of British theatre.
Did you go to the theatre with anyone?
No, I'm afraid I was quite alone, Inspector, more's the pity. I can show you my ticket, though, if you care to see it.
I'll give you a receipt.
You can keep the ticket. It wasn't a very memorable production. There are only so many times one can sit through a bad Othello. Pity of it is, I've already sat through this a few times in the last few weeks.
Really? Why?
Oh, yes. I'm writing a review about this production for an academic journal. So you can imagine how torturous it has been for me to choose this particular production to write about. It's like being condemned to one of the 9 circles of hell.
Yes. Now, can you tell me what you did at the weekend? For example, did you go somewhere for Easter?
Well, I went for a meal on Sunday, but apart from that I stayed in.
Where did you go for this meal?
The Alchemist. The meal was wonderful, and the wine superb. It always is.
Can you tell me something about Clarissa Grandison?
As colleagues, we weren't at all close. And given the circumstances, it is something I am ashamed of. It's a terrible thing to happen to anyone.
What's terrible?
Well, I imagine it was terrible for her. Dying alone as she did, however it was she died.
What did you think of her, your deceased colleague?
Personally?
If you like.
To be quite honest, I think she was a very bitter woman.
Bitter? In what way?
She thought she was being discriminated against.
Discriminated?
Because she was a woman. You may have noticed that there are only 2 female fellows here. Well, there were 2. There's only one now, a Dr. Barry. Clarissa felt that we, the men, were always out for ourselves, old school tie stuff and everything. That's a nonsense, of course.
Was there any truth in this?
None. Funny, though, she did nothing to help her female students here or offer them any encouragement. It was often commented upon by the students.
Why would she do that?
I don't think she felt very secure in herself. She seemed to go out of her way to take the hard road.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, classes are arranged so that we all have a little teaching every day, so we're not over unduly burdened. Clarissa rearranged her schedule, much to the lament of the rest of us, so that all her teaching was done on 2 days a week. Then she complained she was overworked. God forbid we had a meeting on one of the days she hadn't scheduled herself to be here, and don't even mention what would happen if there was an emergency. She could be quite unaccommodating. The odd thing was, the other 3 days of the week she wasn't here. She claimed that she was working on something which required her to use the other libraries.
What's so odd about that?
In all the years she was here, she never published one publication that could not have been researched in our library over there.
How could you be certain of that?
I could show you a few things, but they're quite embarrassing, really. Most of them are in foreign periodicals. Foreign language periodicals, I should say, and the standard is hardly in keeping with that is expected of fellows at Chalfont College.
She had nothing published in English.
Nothing over 5,000 words. Most of the foreign publications in Finnish, Arabic and Japanese are actually rehashes of things she's lectured on here, and those lectures are as old as the hills.
You said that the students commented upon her not being very helpful. Could you be more specific? Anything in particular spring to mind?
I wasn't there, but everything I say is pure hearsay, okay?
You can be sure that I will attempt to verify anything that you tell me.
There was a student, a Janie Berkshire. This was a few years ago now. She had been going through a rough patch and had made an appointment to see Clarissa about a personal matter.
Dr. Allworthy, please continue.
She had been feeling suicidal and had asked to see Clarissa. Clarissa was her supervisor, you know. And she said that Clarissa had suggested that she see her the following Tuesday. This was a Thursday, and an emergency, mark you. Clarissa said that she was going to have a crisis. Could she please wait until the following week when she could fit her into her schedule?
What happened?
Janie came to see me instead. I was around that day, so I sat down and I listened to her, and we arranged for her to see the right counsellor.
Could you think of anyone who would want to kill her, Dr. Allworthy?
You mean apart from me?